Bonjour Year 8 and welcome to week 2 of Online French. Pour commencer, to start with, we are going to be doing an activity using the words and phrases that I wanted you to learn last week in your fact book. So, hopefully without looking now, you can reorder these 4 sentences here so that they make sense in French. Your challenge is to do with the 4th sentence. So however you write it, what I'd like you to think about is how could you move some of the words in that sentence so that it still makes sense. Because number 4 can be written a number of different ways. So pause the screen here, give yourselves a few minutes to do that, and then we'll do the answers. And here are the answers. 1. David est intelligent. David is intelligent. 2. Ma mère est très égoïste. That's not a very nice sentence. My mum is very selfish. 3. Ma sœur est sportive. Notice how we've got the feminine end there because we're talking about ma sœur, my sister. My sister is sporty. Number 4. Can be written a number of different ways, like I said, for the challenge. So you will have written one of these 4, hopefully. And you'll also maybe have noticed for the challenge that you can change the adjectives into a different place. And you can also move this word assez, which means quite, into different places in the text. Mon père est assez patient mais sportif. My dad is quite patient but sporty. So 3 of these words here can be swapped around. So, our title for today's lesson is Mes copains, my friends. And here are our objectives. So you're all going to be able to use on to talk about what you do with your friends and family, hopefully. Most of you, by the end of today's lesson, will understand what a reflexive verb is and when to use it. And some of you will be able to adapt these reflexive verbs so you can talk about your relationships with your friends and family. Let's see how we get on. So we'll start with talking about activities that you do with your friends and family. Last week we learned that both nous and on both mean we in English. Today we're more focusing on and what I'd like you to do is match these activities to the pictures. So you can very simply write out 1 to 8 and A to H if you wish, but it makes more sense for revision purposes if you actually write out the phrases and then write out what you think they might mean in English. Your challenge, which is tricky, if these all started with nous rather than on, how would you have to change these verbs? So you wouldn't say nous écoute, you'd have to change écoute as well. So thinking back to last week, how do you change these verbs so they match with nous rather than on? Have a go at this activity, pause the screen now, and then we'll do some answers. So, on écoute de la musique, we listen to music, is picture B. The answers are just appearing here, next to the phrases. On joue à des jeux vidéo, we play video games, is picture G. On va en ville, is picture D. We go into town. On fait du shopping, letter F, we do shopping. On rigole, now that's a new word for you probably, and it matches with picture A. You might have seen that one. That one might have been the last one. It's just we laugh. On rigole, we have a laugh. On rigole. These next 3 have been separated because they all start with on parle. Now I didn't give you this clue before because I wanted you to try and work out what parle was by itself. But these 3, C, H and E, are all in little speech bubbles. Because on parle means we talk. So we talk about sport, is C. We talk about fashion, on parle de mode, is letter E. And on parle de film, we talk about films, is letter H. So there's 8 activities there that you might do with your family. The challenge was to think about how would these verbs change if we used nous to mean we. Well, on écoute means we listen, but so does nous écoutons, ending in ONS. Remember that from last lesson? Nous jouons, nous faisons, nous rigolons, nous parlons. The one you've got to be careful with especially is on va, we go. The other way to say we go is nous allons, and those don't look anything alike because aller is a irregular verb. Aller becomes nous allons or on va. So, if you can remember a few of those, then perhaps you can already tick off the first objective. But let's move on to the other two objectives, which are about reflexive verbs. So, what is a reflexive verb? It's a bit different to normal verbs that you've been learning before, because it has something extra called a reflexive pronoun before the verb itself. So, je joue, I play, there's no reflexive pronoun there. You did see these before in year 7 when we talked about daily routines. Je me lève, I get up. Je me lave, I wash myself. It's verbs that you do to yourself. For example, we saw je prépare was I prepare. So something like I prepare a meal or I prepare a presentation. But je me prépare is reflexive. There's the reflexive pronoun, and it means I prepare myself. I get ready, in other words. Here's another normal verb, on dit, is we tell. So we tell stories, on dit les histoires. But on se dit, with a reflexive pronoun in the middle, becomes we tell each other. Okay, so we're looking at verbs that we do to myself, yourself, himself, herself, ourselves, each other. So, before we look into it in any more detail, could you, these are all je verbs, and this number 6 has got a couple of on in it. I want you to look at your fact book for this week, read these 6 sentences here, and write down what is the relationship to the person mentioned. So as an example, number 1, je m'entends très bien avec mon frère. I've put number 1, gets on with brother. So it's the relationship and the person. So there's 10 points available here because I've already done number 1 for you. So you're going to do numbers 2 to 6 by yourself. A little bit of another hint. Hint 1, use your fact book to help you. Hint 2, copains are friends who are boys or boys and girls. And if you talk about copines, they're just friends who are all girls. Your challenge is to try to explain to me, or explain to yourself for now, how do you make a reflexive verb? Okay, so pause the screen here and give this activity a go. Here's your answers. So the first one was the example already. Number 1, they get on with their brother. Number 2, argues, je me dispute, I argue, and this time with parents. So there's your 2 points, argues with and parents. Number 3, has fun with, je m'amuse bien, and with friends, mes copains, my friends. Number 4, je me chamaille avec mon demi-frère. I squabble with my step-brother, demi-frère. I'm sure some of you were able to work that out when you worked out what frère was. Je me fâche avec ma petite sœur. I get angry with, je me fâche, and ma petite sœur is my little sister. If you just put sister, I'll give you the point anyway. And finally, number 6, with my friends, look, that's friends who are boys or boys and girls, is copain, and copine is girls who are all friends who are all girls. We tell each other everything, and we confess or we share secrets. So tell each other everything and share secrets with friends. That's a lot of the vocabulary there is what I'm looking for you to learn in your fact books this week, please. So your challenge was to look at these and then tell me how you think you make reflexive verbs. So let's look at how we do that. It's in 3 parts. Je, is the subject, the person. Me is the reflexive pronoun bit. Then you've got your verb, whichever verb it might be, in this case dispute, which means argue. And then your verb ending. And that verb ending matches the je, doesn't it? Like je joue, I play, also ends in an e. The only difference between a normal verb and a reflexive verb is this bit in the middle, the reflexive pronoun. Let's see some examples. So, most of the verbs we've been looking at so far today have been je, me, and then they end in an e. But if you want to talk about you, you'd use this line, tu, te, and then your verb would end in es. He, she, and we, il, elle, on. For example, here's a worked out example of a verb. Je me chamaille is I squabble. Tu te chamailles with an S on the end is you squabble. It's pronounced exactly the same, but when you write about you need to add on an S on the end of the verb. Il se chamaille, he squabbles, elle se chamaille, she squabbles, and on se chamaille, we squabble. So that's what reflexive verbs look like. The only difference between this and a normal verb is the reflexive pronoun in the middle. Just be careful, because a couple of verbs start with a vowel. And so rather than saying je me amuse, they've just squashed it together to make je m'amuse. I have fun. So we have fun becomes on s'amuse, not on se amuse. That's why I've put the reflexive pronouns in brackets here, M apostrophe, T apostrophe. So if we want to talk about your relationships with people, you need to use the right possessive adjective. That's just a really posh way of saying my, your, and our. If you are talking about your brother, it does not matter whether you are a boy or a girl. You would say mon frère. If you want to say my sister, it doesn't matter if you are a boy or a girl, you would say ma sœur. So for example, if I was talking about my mum, I would call her ma mère. If my brother wanted to talk about my mum, he would also say ma mère. It doesn't matter that he's a boy. So this, mon, ton, notre, ma, ta, notre, me, te, no, matches whoever you are talking about. Mon frère is always mon frère. Ma sœur is always ma sœur. And here's the plural ones. Notre frère, our brother. Notre sœur, our sister. Nos parents is our parents. So this last column here is plural. Mes parents, my parents. Tes parents, your parents. Nos parents, your parents. Oh, sorry, our parents. So read those 4 sentences for me and decide whether you would need to use which of these options I've given you. Your answers are as follows. Je me dispute avec mon frère, my brother. Je m'entends bien avec mes grands-parents, my grandparents, plural. On se chamaille avec nos sœurs, our sisters, plural. And finally, tu t'amuses bien avec ta copine, friend who's a girl, copine. Have a read through that, pause the screen here if you need another moment to take that in or you want to make notes. So we're going to end our lesson with an out loud challenge. So, if you've attempted the first objective, from memory, say out loud in French 3 things that you do with your friends and family. If you're attempting the middle challenge, I want you to tell me out loud the difference between a regular verb and a reflexive verb. Explain what that is. And if you're trying the hardest challenge, I want you to say 3 sentences out loud in French to describe your relationships with your family or friends. Any questions, please email rcunningham@johnfernley.org. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Au revoir!